What's up, design family, and welcome to another episode of FittDesign TV. So glad to have you here. Today we'll be looking at colors. We're going to be looking at them in three parts. First, color theory, how are colors made? Next, how do we mix and match colors? And then last, what your colors say about you. So whether you're a designer or someone who's just into fashion, hopefully you guys can learn a thing or two about colors. I'm so excited to bring this episode to you guys. Buckle up, you're in for a good one. Welcome to FittDesign TV. On this channel, we'll explore what it takes to make it as an activewear fashion brand, whilst providing tips, tricks, and actionable steps towards starting your own product line. Whether you're an entrepreneur looking to start your own brand, or just someone interested in fitness fashion, there's something for you here. First, we'll look at color theory. How are colors made? We have to start off by understanding that colors come in three primary colors, and these colors make pretty much every single color that you see in the spectrum. Different values of these colors and mixing and matching them will provide us with the different tones, the infinite tones and hues that we see in this world. So first we'll look at the primary colors, and those are red, yellow, and blue. And just like when you're in kindergarten and you're mixing and matching colors by painting with different crayons, it's the same idea here. We create different colors outside of these three primary colors by mixing and matching these three primary colors. For example, red and yellow will give you orange. Blue and yellow will give you green. And then red and blue will give you purple. So pretty much how we get the other colors is by mixing and matching. Now we'll also have to look at two other parameters that affect the tonality of a color, the vibrancy of a color, the darkness of a color, and that's saturation, and we'll also look at the value of the color. So saturation typically represents the intensity or purity of a color. Highly matured colors or highly saturated colors are very good at grabbing our attention. On the opposite spectrum, we have desaturated colors, which are more like pastels. They're a lot more delicate and light, and those have a much more subtle approach and effect. And we'll also look at the value of the color, and the value controls the brightness of a color. Something with a high value is lighter and therefore it appears brighter, so you bring in more white into it, and then something that with a lower value is going to end up being a lot darker. So that's how we slide colors from dark to light. We'll also look at the color wheel. The color wheel is typically represents all the main colors, and mixing and matching these colors will allow us to see how we mix or how we block our colors, and that takes us on to mixing and matching colors. The main way to mix and match colors is by color blocking, by mixing solids of different colors. And color blocking can be split up into different ways of color blocking. First, we can look at color blocking from mixing and matching monochromatic colors. So color blocking monochromatic colors is typically by taking one color on the color wheel and then picking shades that are immediately adjacent to it, or pretty much the same color just in different values and different saturation levels. And this will give the wearer a very sleek and sophisticated approach. It's a great way of mixing and matching colors without actually mixing and matching colors, if that makes sense. Next, we'll look at complementary colors. So if you remember the color wheel to circle, mixing and matching complementary colors will take two colors on opposite sides of the wheel. So make sure that once you have your color wheel, look at opposite side colors, and let's just say you have blue on one side and then orange on the other side. Mixing and matching complementary colors will mean that you can mix and match blue and orange. It typically gives a very checkered and very vibrant and very loud approach. If you think like Kanye West, a Graduation album, a lot of that was going on. Basically, complementary colors was the main way of blocking colors in that specific aesthetic. Next, we can look at analogous colors. So analogous colors is somewhat similar to monochromatic, but it's kind of like monochromatic, a bit more intensified. So analogous colors represents taking two or three or four colors that are very close on the color wheel, so that are adjacent to each other on the color wheel, and then mixing and matching them. This is a great way to create tonal fits with a bit more contrast in the different tones that you're creating. Again, this is a very sophisticated and sleek way of mixing and matching colors, and we definitely recommend, if you're mixing analogous colors, to definitely stick with a certain aesthetic. So if you're mixing and matching tonal colors or pastels, stick with pastels. And if you're mixing and matching neons, stick with neons. So don't have your tops being neons and then your bottoms being pastels, and then try to mix and match analogous colors. Typically your entire fit should have one aesthetic throughout, whether it's neons or pastels or any other subset of color families. Next, we'll be looking at triadic colors. Triadic colors are pretty much what it sounds like. It's on the color wheel, picking colors that are equidistant from each other. So if we split the color wheel into thirds, the first portion of each third, those will be the colors that we'll want to mix. And this gives a very playful but balanced and calculated approach to color blocking. It's always awesome, and Triatic Colors is a great way to mix and match colors without going overboard and being super loud. Now that we figured out color blocking and what are the different methods of choosing the colors that will go into your blocks, we can look at what your colors say about you, or if you're a designer, when you're creating a collection, if you want to create a unified theme, how to choose these colors and what these colors will say about your collection and how you're getting your message across. First, we'll go for everyone's favorite black color. Black is a very serious color. It's meant to represent maturity. It's an indicator of power and prestige. So black is always a must-have in any collection. It's a very versatile color. It can be mixed and matched with a lot of stuff. And overall, it just represents very stable, and it represents a prestige that most other colors can't come close to. Next, we can look at brown. Brown is awesome because it's also a very mature color, but it's quite toned down. It's very down to earth. It has a very earthy approach, a very earthy look. So it is a color that represents a lot of stability, and just overall, it's a conservative color that does well in a lot of situations as well. So we want to look at blue. Blue, in the different shades of blue, can typically represent confidence or dependability. And then a darker blue is a very calming color, has a very calming effect on the wearer and someone who's observing the wearer. So we definitely recommend blue, in different shades of blue, depending on your specific usage. Darker blue, very calming. A lighter blue has also a calming appeal, but it's a bit more exciting and dynamic at the same time. We'll also look at green. Green historically puts people into a good mood just because of its nature representation. Think green, you think of nature. So green is typically a very light and vibrant and very good mood inducing color. We want to look at purple. Historically, purple has meant to represent regality or royalty, but now it's more associated with artsiness or creativity. So it still has that regal approach. You've seen it in a lot of fits. It has a very kind of royal look, but it can also bring in a touch of creative flair or kind of like an artsy feel to your fit. We'll also look at red. Red always means like boldness, passion, energy, dynamicism. It's a very bright and vibrant color. It captures your attention. It's very in your face. So red is always going to be this dynamic color. If you want to incorporate a bit of flair or energy into your collection, red is what you want to be looking at. So red is awesome. While we also want to look at yellow. Yellow is kind of like, it's like the more toned down, very subtle, very sophisticated, very kind of like calming, delicate color. It's typically meant to represent like happiness, like a dynamic, like an upbeat vibe, just a general happiness, as opposed to red, which is a lot more like forceful. It's very like energetic, powerful. Yellow is just like kind of like uplifting, happy, dynamic, but in a kind of controlled and reserved way. So we'll look at yellow, and it also is typically representative of approachable people. Different shades of yellow, like paler yellows, pastel yellows, give a very feminine but also approachable vibe and experience to the wearer. So we want to also look at white. And again, historically, white has always been a color that's tough to make. So if you look at early wedding dresses, they were never white, just because white was such a tough color to maintain, to create. And now with modern advances of textile creation, we've been able to make white. It's a lot easier to make pure white. So white has always been represented as an expensive color, but as of recent, it's meant to represent more like freedom or optimism, like optimism for the future. It represents peace. So it has a lot of these associations with striving for something better. So white is always optimism and freedom and kind of like lack of constriction. You can look at pink, bright pink, like a very vibrant pink is typically like a hot pink kind of thing, is typically associated with a feminine look, while a soft pink is very elegant and mature and sophisticated as well, with a feminine touch and approach. You can have pinks that are more catered towards men, like corals, which have a bit more red in them, and like a bit more red and orange in them. And so it is a versatile color overall, and it can be used on both female and male garments, but just the different values and the different saturations, different mixes of pink can really bring out different aesthetics depending on your use case scenario. We'll look at orange. Orange is always fun, party vibes, so it's like a more intense yellow, typically happy-go-lucky, just an overall vibrant color that is always great to have in certain situations. Gray is an awesome color as well. It's a super versatile color. It's a color that represents like invisibility. It's such a neutral and adaptable color that typically people that wear a lot of gray, it's said about them that is they want to kind of remain invisible or kind of blend into the crowd, just because gray is able to take on a lot of those hues and saturations, just blend into a lot of different events or situations. So gray, super versatile color, highly recommended. There's a ton of different shades of gray that you can use to give different appearances or different aesthetics, whether you introduce a carbon gray or a darker gray, or a gray with a bit of blue versus a gray with a bit of green. Gray is infinite, and you can do pretty much just about anything with it, and you can mix and match with a ton of stuff. So hopefully you guys have been able to take a thing or two away from this color theory video in terms of learning how color is made, how it's mixed and matched, and what typically colors mean. If you guys want us to do more color related videos in more specific format, please let us know. We always love hearing from you guys, and it's an absolute pleasure to bring this content. Until next time, thank you so much for tuning into FittDesign TV. Stay awesome.